we are super excited to invite you to Yes and Wynnwood, a real estate podcast. Hello everyone, this is Andre and Demetrius with the Yes and Wynnwood, the real estate podcast, where we create wealth for the now and the next. We also have my co-host, Mr. Demetrius.
And yes, we're here today with our special guest, Janet Silva, all the way from Rhode Island. She's the COO of Earn Your Leisure University.
Yes.
So we're excited to have her on the show today.
And I'm happy to be here.
Yes, Janet. First of all, we thank you and honor you for being here with us today for our podcast. And to have you here, there's someone we look up to for so many years, to see the growth and the development that you have overcome and the challenge you have ever overcome to be where you are today. We are truly ecstatic to have you here.
Thank you. And I feel the same way about you. Thank you for the invite. It's my first time in Texas, so I feel really good to be here. You guys have been so welcoming, and yes, it's a great time.
Awesome. So Janet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I mean, that's a big question. Yeah. I mean, you guys said I'm from Rhode Island. Yeah. I'm CEO of Eylu University. I guess I would say, if I had to describe myself, I'm someone that's definitely passionate about our communities, Black and Brown communities, and seeing us move forward. I'm a perpetual learner. I feel like education is a key to success, but also like knowing who you are. So I feel like at this point, I'm more in my purpose more than ever before. And it's like helping people, learning and growing, and just letting my story inspire others, hopefully, to do the same in their own way. You know what I mean? So. Yes. So with EYLU, we know that you are have a passion for real estate also. Yes, I do.
So can you tell us why real estate?
Yeah. So I guess it starts with my grandmother. She came to America in the 70s, and she got her first property in Yonkers, New York, where my older sisters were born. And she ended up getting a couple of properties and buying property back home in Cape Verde Islands, which is, I know a lot of people don't know about Cape Verde. So it's a small country off the west coast of Africa.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I never heard of it.
Yeah, nobody ever heard of us. Right. There's a lot of us in New England, though, where I'm from.
Okay.
So she ended up buying property in New York and in Cape Verde. And by the time, she passed in 2020, she had a decent amount of, real estate, and it really changed her life. So I would say that's kind of piqued my interest. And when she would come visit in Rhode Island, I remember, riding around with her, and she'd be like, she knew I was interested in real estate. And so she would tell me, like, drive around, know what kind of neighborhoods you want to buy in, get to know your surroundings. And then also my dad, he's not really that much into real estate, but he had me read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like 20, 21. Yes. And I was like, okay, I really want to buy like the property. It took me years till I actually did it. I was nervous. I was like, can I do this on my own? What if the roof breaks? I don't know. Like, you think of the worst things possible and how much it could really be. Like, it can get expensive. So, just educating myself, listening to podcasts and all that kind of stuff really made me feel like this is the right thing. I knew I wouldn't regret it buying something eventually, down the line. So.
Awesome.
I always, I like hearing those stories because, especially when you talk about the grandparents, I always feel that the grandparents was like 20 years ahead of their time as far as in how they kind of like prepared and worked versus, we're in a great world right now. And, there's a lot of issues that are going on, but I feel that our generation have maybe kind of watered down a lot of stuff versus from how our grandparents and parents prepared us.
Yeah, I mean, they just want to survive. Correct. So they worked at factories. My grandfather did too, and then they bought their property. We had a store, a deli on the first floor, and they rented out the units above it.
Wow. Okay.
So and I went every summer, holidays, and she'd be in the store, like open up the store. I'd see her lift up there was like a. Going into probably way too much details. She would have to lock up the store and open it up in the morning and make sure it was open at a certain time and everything. And then always gave me candy and all that. So just grew up seeing that, but they just wanted to make it.
Okay. So when you was, getting into real estate, let me ask you this. How did you find your first deal? Like how did that come to fruition?
That's a great question. So actually my cousin, he has a construction company. And I just got a realtor, was looking at properties, and I was having a hard time. Like, it just, the deals weren't going through. I wanted to get a foreclosure, house, like, fix it up, and then have a bunch of equity because I was listening to all these podcasts. This is what I'm going to do. And then, we did an inspection on the property, and the pipes had burst. Right. And we didn't realize that. So we had to add that into the estimates, which made it way more expensive. And I went back to the bank, like, can we negotiate the price of the house? And foreclosures are just such a long process. Yeah. So that was just, it was a lot. And then my cousin was like, well, I know some guy that's working for me that's flipping a house. Maybe I can have you go look at it. And that really worked out because I was able to pick the stain on the floors for 3 units, different cabinets. Every apartment is a 3-unit that I own now, and they all have its own vibe. Okay. Like, one has all white cabinets, the other one's like medium wood, the third floor is dark wood. Okay. It's like, and I got into the process. We signed on it before they were even done with the house. So I guess got lucky.
So your first deal was actually multifamily. Yeah. Oh wow.
And I house hacked.
Yeah.
I house hacked. I lived in one of the units. I rented out. It was a 2-bedroom. And I rented the other bedroom to a friend, and got tenants, and just kind of went from there.
Okay. How many units do you have now? Well, how many doors do you have right now?
I still only have 3. I'm still looking for. That was 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. I've still been looking. The numbers have to make sense. Yes. Sometimes inspections come back and I'm a little scared. MG's like, you got this. You could do like a fix and flip or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, nah. Yeah, I'm really big on being able to sleep at night. Yeah. Right. So I don't mind like something that needs a little bit of work, but it's not.
I remember when I bought my first flip with some partners. The deal was like straightforward going. Yeah. I mean, the house barely. The previous owner, she was about to go into foreclosure, and she didn't want a foreclosure on her record. So we came and kind of took it off her hands. And when we closed on it, when I walked the house, I didn't get an inspection. Just because the house was like, it didn't need a lot of work. Okay. And so after we closed on it, we started working, and we was probably 90% completed. The freaking pipes bust in the attic and destroyed the master bedroom. Water was running down all the way down on the second floor. So that created extra costs. It still ended up being a profitable project. Mm-hmm. But those flips, man, as opposed to new construction, you can, as much as you can try to budget for it, there's always going to be a lot of unknowns. With new construction, is kind of fixed costs. Yeah.
You brought up a great point of you watch your grandmother buy properties, and when she passed, she left the properties behind, and you went to go look at it, you like, wow, she left us in a great situation. And so my wife and I, we have 20 doors, and everything that we do is for us and the next generation. Mm-hmm. So I remember taking my son and my daughter to one of the properties, and we walked it, and I told them, kids, this is yours. Let's take care of it now. Let's pick up the trash. Let's walk around. Let's claim it. This is your property. Because I always keep in mind, just like what your grandmother did, that when I'm no longer around, I want to leave generational wealth for the kids' kids. Mm-hmm. So you telling this story was amazing, because not growing up with properties and listening to other people having it was very vital for me to want to do it for my kids. Mm. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. We know, Janet, that you are doing amazing things on Eylu.
Thank
right?
You.
So can you tell us a little bit about how do you add value to your clients?
It's a good question. I mean, I like to think about how I want to be treated. I know it sounds cliche, but I just really try to treat people with respect, and like I said, I'm an earner. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm also part of the community, and so I'm like, hey, I feel like we need a little more of this, or earners are saying this. Earners is what we call it. Correct. Clients, I guess. Mm-hmm. Correct. So I'm like, I really just try to listen to what they want and find solutions. Really.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, finding solutions. I feel that if you become the answer to a problem, you won't ever have to really worry about the money. Yeah, because you're always someone's answer. And that's kind of how me and Andre kind of kicked it off. Mm-hmm. When he was asking me a gazillion questions when I first met him. I think it was before I can answer a question, he was answering 3 more questions. Yeah. But no, it was a good thing though. And one of the things that I always told Andre is figure out a way to provide value to your clients.
Yeah.
Because sometimes your clients have capital and they have, access to the banking system as far as trying to secure financing, but they don't know the steps between B and Y.
Right.
So sometimes if you can be the answer to some of those unknowns to that B to Y, you add value to them. Yeah. And if you provide the great service, they're always going to come back to you, regardless of whoever else they speak to in the market. It's just the nature of a beast. It's like when you're shopping for furniture, you may fall in love with all the furniture you saw at Rooms to Go, but it's in your nature to go check at another furniture store just to see what they got. Right. So that's how I kind of look at things.
Yeah.
And Janet, with you being COO of EYL University, I think as a community, we always see the end result. Like, Janet, you're big time now. You're like, oh man, she's amazing. How she's doing this and that. But when you tell the story of how you was able to get to where you are today, I believe add value to the community. So can you tell us how did the whole EYLU COO opportunity come about, and give our audience a taste of it?
Sure, yeah. So I love the Earn Your Leisure podcast, and I remember getting an email.
For people who don't know what Earn Your Leisure is, can you tell us?
Sure, yeah. It's a podcast run by Troy and Rashad, and it's about financial literacy. It's pretty much, they talk about real estate, investing, side hustles, a lot of different businesses people can start. So I'm always been a big podcast head. Like, I don't want to name any that, I don't want to give anybody promo, but there was a lot of them I was listening to.
I was waiting.
Earn Your Leisure was definitely one of them. And I signed up to their emails, and I remember getting an email like Market Mondays was going to start the next day, which is a show they have on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. And the pandemic had just started, and we were all in lockdown. And the market was going crazy. Everyone was talking about the market, right? So I was like, I'm going to tune in. And I watched that first Market Monday. And then I kept hearing about, join EYL University and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to join. So it was the third week of Market Mondays. And I joined.
Okay.
And I think there was 300 of us at the time. Wow. King Arthur was one of the earners.
Shout out to King Arthur.
Yeah, there wasn't many of us in this Facebook group. And we were all just really hungry to learn and reach our goals. And it was a amazing space. Still is. Yeah. Now we have a lot more structure and everything. But we were all just figuring it out together. Oh, here's an article. Just really helping each other. We're reading books together and doing our own research. And so my, claim to fame was my notes. I'm a big note taker. That's how I process and organize everything in my head. So I'd be in all these meetings and I'll take notes, and I didn't really understand that. So I'll do my own research, add that to my notes, and then I would post it on the Facebook group. And then I remember Troy and MG calling me can you keep doing that? And whatever. So I had suggestions of things we could do, and they're go for it. So they kind of gave me a blank canvas, and we're okay, whatever you feel and I was an earner going through the process, so it was kind of for them, connecting to their audience and what they wanted. And there was really nothing else to do. Everything was shut down, so I was just at home learning. Right. And it was beautiful. It was everything I ever wanted, because our communities need so much. And, we're in these classes. I have my MBA, but it was me, the only Black girl in the class. And I don't feel a little emotional talking about it.
No, that's good.
It's it was wow, this is what we need. And all of us coming together, we understood each other, in a different way. And we're reading these books and thinking about how it affects our community, not just the world, but us, you know? And it was just a beautiful experience. So it was an honor to share my notes. I would have done it anyways. That's just how I learned. So
I think one of the things that I've noticed is that in our community, what we suffer from is not knowing how to do something, because once we know a blueprint, we can take off running. It's more so of the collaboration, trusting each other, because we was divided for so long. So it's trusting each other, depending on each other, as well as from financial literacy. A lot of us, especially in our community, we don't understand the power of financial literacy. We don't understand the power of a dollar and what it can do. So that's one of the amazing things that I learned. I enjoy about watching Earn.
And also, we're left out of a lot of things too. It's maybe it's purpose successfully, probably so.
Correct.
So I think we sometimes in our communities we carry some sort of like a shame, like we don't know these things and we're not good enough, or we haven't put in the work, but really we're just left out
correct.
of a lot of these conversations, and people don't think about us because we're not at the table. So having these conversations and having podcasts that cater to us and having the tools. I mean, we're creative, we're hardworking. I mean, we bring the season, the sauce. Like, you know, without us, I feel like there's.
I always tell everybody, man, you may be smarter than me, but you will never outwork me. Until I met this guy.
No, Janet, you said something so special, is that you was adding value to the community.
Correct.
Consistently. And that's the key. In order to create wealth, and the reason for this podcast, we want to help people understand you have to consistently create wealth and knowledge for the people. And Janet, that's what you did. You were sharing notes and you was consistent with it over a period of time to where everybody came to you for the notes. Mm-hmm. Not only everybody, but the main people in charge was like, hey, we look back, we seen that Janet kept doing this and doing this. She's going to be in charge. So can you tell us, Janet, when they broke the news to you about being COO, and what was your thoughts? And then leaving your job to take the position, what was your thought process with that? Because we all know that leaving a safe haven to where you collecting a check every 2 weeks is challenging.
Yeah.
I'm still learning it, okay? So, but what was your thoughts behind that?
Well, I'll say too, just to, talk about the adding value part, is I really loved what I was doing. It wasn't hard. So I think for anybody that's thinking about how do I move on? Okay, what do you like to do? What could you do without anybody paying you to do it? I mean, it's going to be a lot easier to be consistent. I think too, the guys were growing faster than they realized, and they needed the help probably sooner than they had probably anticipated. Right. And I was there. So I think that it was just like the perfect storm for everything. Wait, what else did you ask me?
The COO, when you heard the news about your new position.
So I did our first ever orientation, because we had so many new members, and they'd be like, where's the schedule? Where do we do this? Like, how's, like, what time? And then OG earners, we just like figured it all out. Right. And we would just like text each other or put it on Facebook. But the new earners were like, okay, where's the structure? Right. And so I was like, okay, we need an orientation. They're like, okay, well, do it. So I created like an orientation, new student manual. And then we had our first ever orientation. It was after that MG actually called me, wanted to hire me for his job, for his company. And then the guys were like, wait a minute, no, we need her for Eylu. Yeah. And MG, the mortgage guys who I'm referring to, amazing in real estate.
Yes.
And so he's also a founder at Eylu University. And then we had a conversation about them hiring.
Let me ask you this: when you're talking about processes and systems, do you think your previous experience? I know you. Well, first off, tell us a little bit about your background before this, and do you think that prepared you?
I think so.
To be able to take on a role like this.
Yeah, because my previous job was at Fidelity, systems analyst actually, and very detailed. Like I used to before that role, I was at Fidelity for almost 8 years, but before that I used to listen to podcasts while I did the other job because it wasn't as detail oriented. Right. But then I wanted to try something new, and I took on a job with it was like more techie, just to challenge myself. And it was very detail oriented. Like you can have a number out of place because you could literally be sending information to the wrong business, wrong client. Wow. And it was like, their portfolios and all that other stuff. So it was really crazy. We had to audit everything. And so, and creating systems, figuring out how we could do this better, faster, more efficiently. And then dealing with I was mostly men I worked with, a couple of women. And I think I was only black person. This is definitely different with being with Eylu, but I don't know. I felt like, I just had to figure it out, kind of, work hard and the details again. So that's what I do. The guys are going so fast and I'm always okay, well, how about this? What about that? Like, let me document this. Let me write a draft. Like, and they're like, they love to say success, love speed. Right. And, I'm more like success, like structure. So we kind of meet in the middle. We kind of help each other in that way.
Because some people, they're 1,000 miles an hour. But I always look at it like this. If you slow it down a little bit and put more processes in place, you can run even faster. So that's how I kind of look at things. Yeah.
I think you need both. Yeah. Because I think for me, I learned a lot from them because I'm someone that overanalyzes. Like, even when I started Airbnb and all that stuff, I wish I'd done it sooner. Buying houses, I wish I'd done that sooner. But I'm like, okay, I make sure I got everything together. Sometimes you can be too detailed.
Yeah. I think that's a victim is always planning to plan, but you never act on everything you're planning on.
And my nickname is Jan with a Plan. I don't know if you know that. the guys call me that too. They're like Jan with a Plan.
I like that.
Yeah, so I'm the one that's always trying to like plan everything out, but you have to
act on it.
You have to act. Yeah.
Janet, how would you define success?
I think for me, financial freedom, be able to do what I want with my time is success. Okay. I think also, I think that's really it.
Yeah. I really don't think there's no true answer to it because success is, at least for me, success is different for every person.
Yeah. Right.
You know, from your personal experience to what you're trying to acquire.
Yeah.
So I really don't think it's no true answer to it.
Yeah. For me, I would say success is also, I love spending time with my kids. Chase, big shout out to Chase and that scholar, and my lovely wife, Joanne, and spending time vacating, going different places, and not being concerned about how much it costs. Right. So I'm real big on spending time with the family.
Right. Success for me means, a variety of things. Freedom. And when I say freedom, just not always bogged down with work, because I grew up in a household where, blue collar working family. My dad was in construction, still in construction. My grandfather was in construction, but sometimes you grew up watching your parents or whoever you looked up to or whoever, was fortunate enough to be a guardian, spend most of their time working to make sure they can provide. And for me, it was more so I wanted to make sure that I don't have to necessarily always work that hard, which I work hard. I work tremendously hard, but it creates income to a fact that if we want to pick up and take a week vacation, we could. Just as long as everything's in order when we leave. Right. So for me, it was more so about the financial freedom, being able to pretty much buy what I want to buy. Invest smartly so that way we're leaving an inheritance for the kids. So how I grew up on my dad's side of the family, my grandfather just passed. He was 89. So make a long story short, basically I got to see both sides of my family own a lot of property, own a lot of land. My mom, dad, he owned over 350 acres at one time where we're from. So it was always like, real estate to me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Janet, can you tell us a little bit about, we know you do Airbnb.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about your experience? What made you choose Airbnb and how is it going for you so far?
Sure. So shout out to the earners. Eylu University. I had some earner friends.
Eylu.
That ran Airbnbs, and so they gave me the confidence to do it. So I, started it last summer. It's going well. I just had someone leave on Monday. I had a request for this weekend that I did cancel though because I wasn't expecting it. So I was like, I'll just details you don't need, but so it's going really well. And when I have family coming to town, they'll stay with me, and I don't charge my family members. It's cool to be in a place that like I can do that,
right.
And I really love hosting people, especially in Providence, Rhode Island, which that's where I'm from. I really love Rhode Island. Shout out to Rhode Island.
Yes.
Shout out to the Row. So I really love it, and actually So I booked an Airbnb when I came into town and actually canceled it because the process was it was not very nice.
Okay.
So now I'm in a hotel.
Okay.
But it really showed me like, wow, I'm a really good host.
Yes.
I have to say.
What would you say make a great host? What are you doing that you didn't see here that made you change your mind?
It's details, all about the details, making sure people know where to go, when, have the codes they need to get in. I got into town and we're supposed to check in at 3 and the place wasn't ready yet. I didn't really get there I wasn't able to come in till like 9.
Wow.
And then the code.
Hold on.
Yeah.
From 3 to 9?
Yeah, well, they had a guest there that didn't leave on time. And normally what I do, if I have someone like checking out and no one else coming in that same day, I really don't care what time to leave, to be honest, as long as my staff can clean and stuff. But I let them know, hey, I have someone checking in that same day. As soon as they get there. So the day you're leaving, have someone checking in. So please make sure you can, be out by 11. So the place is just as clean as you had it, for the next person. So I just send little reminders, things like that. I try not to contact my people too much, but like after their first night, I'll send them a message like, how was your first night? I pride myself on a 5-star experience. Please let me know if there's anything I did better. Just so you catch anything that might have gone wrong. But I make sure my place is spotless, Let
me ask you a question. I'm not in Airbnb.
Yeah.
Andre, I don't know if you
no, not yet.
Would you, since you're in that space, do you consider Airbnb over traditional landlord? Like from just buying a property and putting a traditional tenant in there? So
my current property, I have one tenant there that's at year lease. Mm-hmm. I have someone else that just moved out. And so I'm going to be doing like a travel nurse. Okay. April 15th. So I have to just furnish that apartment. Trying that out. Okay. And then, and then I have the Airbnb unit. So we'll see. All of them have their pros and cons. there's so much more turnover with Airbnb. But the cool thing is I'm kind of like employing a housekeeper. It's kind of fun to hire someone. Also, I'm not the cheapest Airbnb. Like, I'm a little more expensive, but I provide quality. Yeah, and it's a different type of customer too. Correct. So I don't take anybody that doesn't have reviews either, like because I have other people in the building, so I don't want to have any. Right. So I need to see good reviews. All their identification there, like a fully set up profile, and then because the cool thing is like I can say no. Right. So I don't ever put myself in a position where I feel like, oh man, I need this money. Like worst case scenario, I can pay the mortgage for the house and. That's, I take time for my tenants, stuff like that. But I'm considering, do I want to renew the lease because I could make more money?
That's what because I'm looking at it like, man.
But you never know what can happen in the world. Maybe Airbnb, something happens. At least I have a tenant there that's covering everything. Correct. So I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
So Janet, thank you so much for this time. We want to ask one more question. Yeah. And we would like for you to leave with a last remark for our audience. How can people find out more about EYLU? Mm-hmm. And then how can people find out more about you? And
sure. Yeah. So you can go to www.eyluniversity.com to find out more about the community and the classes that we teach. We have classes every week on investing, real estate. We have clubs, so earners get together and talk about, we have one club for like 50 plus earners. Wow. So, then we have a parenting club, we have, crypto club, all different types of communities, and we're constantly growing. So if you have an idea or you want to give to the community, there's a million ways to do that.
So basically you guys are putting like minds together.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
And then we have accountability teams, which you found, we kind of connected through Arthur as well. Yeah. And he's my accountability partner. Yeah. One of them that I started off with, and that helped me so much because, I was reaching my goals, investing wise, and so many different ways. You have people checking in with you every week. Right. So it's a great community. Feel free to join us. And if you want to find out more about me, you can find me on Instagram at I am Janet Da Sailva.
The only one, the one and only.
That's it. This is me right here. Yeah. So thank you guys for this opportunity. Yes. Appreciate you.
Yes. You're welcome. So we want to wrap it up. So once again, this is Andre and Demetrius with the Yes in Wynnwood, the real estate podcast with our special guest, Janet Da Sailva. It was amazing. Thank you so much, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank you.